Thank you. Welcome to the SEC on ESPN. There is nothing like Rupp Arena. And today, this desperate Kentucky team is anxious for a win after some down times. And they're taking on a ranked Vanderbilt team that is trying to finish strong. Both of these teams are in a fight for the top 4 seeds in the SEC standings. With that comes a double bye in the SEC tournament in Nashville. Florida, 13-2, has a huge one tonight at home against Arkansas. And these teams can either finish with a double bye or be playing on the first day in Nashville. Welcome courtside. Tom Hart alongside Dane Bradshaw. We only have 1 week remaining in the regular season in this conference, but still plenty to be determined.
Yeah, you mentioned what's at stake for the SEC tournament. Also a huge quad one win opportunity for both these teams trying to improve their resume, but don't forget the redemption factor. A month ago, Vanderbilt drilled this Kentucky team by 25 points. Look for the Wildcats to come out sharp.
A shot across the bow, big warning signs for what was to come for Kentucky, but what has been for both Kentucky and Vanderbilt has been sensational guard play throughout the course of the season. We expect that to continue today.
Yeah, we've got 2 of the top 4 guards in the conference. The super sophomore Tyler Tanner has made a tremendous jump from year 1 to year 2, leads the team in scoring and assists, and Oweh has just been dynamite in conference play, averaging over 20 points per game. One of the best athletes you'll see in the country, especially when he gets ahead of steam and in transition.
Tyler Tanner had 19 against Kentucky in the previous meeting, and as Dane mentioned, that was a Vanderbilt beatdown. In that game, Kentucky was awful at the start. Just 3 for their first 20. Tanner and company took off running. 28 points off of Kentucky turnovers in that game. Vandy was +4 in the paint. They led by 28 early in the second half. And a blowout victory at home. That sent a message to the entire league that Vanderbilt, which started the season 16-0, was for real. And now they get a chance to prove that once again here on the road in Lexington, where Vanderbilt all-time is just 3-44 inside Rupp Arena. Vandy coming off of a midweek win against Georgia. Kentucky had to survive on the road against last place South Carolina in what was an uninspiring effort for the Cats. Denzel Aberdeen runs a point for Kentucky. Cats defense was good against South Carolina. They moved to 17-0 under Pope and holding the opponent under 68. Meanwhile, Colin Chandler can't connect, but Malachi Moreno is there on the offensive glass.
Well, defensive breakdown for Vanderbilt, leaving a hot shooter open and then not finishing the possession. Nice job by Moreno, knocking him out. Down.
Duke Miles back in the starting lineup for Vanderbilt for the first time since January 24th. He wastes no time in impacting this game.
I love the confidence number 2 in Black plays with. He is always a motivator for his team and inspires them on the offensive end.
Here's a look at the starting 5 for Kentucky, including Jelavic, who finds Aberdeen. Back to Chandler in the corner, and he hits his second opportunity. He's one of the best in the league, 46% from deep in SEC play.
Well, that's a short closeout by Miles. You have to know your personnel. Make 5 and white, put the ball on the deck.
Ultra valuable A.K. Okereke gets it back from nickel. He's working on Jelavic. Okereke with a fadeaway. Good.
He loves that mid-range. He knows how to get to his spot and then fades away to get the space he needs.
He plays fearless. Here's Oweh. Preseason player of the year, 17.5 points per game, better than that in league play. And now Jelavic too strong. Does Kentucky want to live behind the arc against this undersized Vanderbilt team today?
They can, and they're capable of getting hot. You can't dare them to shoot threes or they will beat you from that spot.
Another board for Moreno. Here's Chandler. Chandler was on a tear from deep, but he had a really poor second half in the loss against Auburn last week. It connects on this one. 2 threes in the first 2 minutes for Colin Chandler.
And that starts with the paint touch by Aberdeen, who is growing before our eyes as one of the best point guards in the league.
Stolen away by Oweh. Buckle up. A great burst in the first 2.5 minutes for this much maligned Kentucky team that has lost 3 of its 4 coming into today. Miles may have gotten away with a shuffle. 9 to shoot for Vandy. Okereke, another one.
What a big shot early by Okereke as this crowd was exploding there after the big Oweh dunk. Points off turnovers, a huge stat in this game.
Moreno in the paint. Nearly gave it up. Aberdeen finds a path. Nice shuffle pass, and Jelavic is fouled.
Aberdeen has been so good with his penetration. He came to Kentucky as a 2-guard, but with injuries, he's had to become the primary ball handler. Look at him get in the paint, draw multiple defenders, and then you'll see the Oweh dunk. He can jump passing lanes. Coach Byington told us, they said, look, when Oweh gets the ball in a steal and transition, it's over, it's done. It's like watching LeBron, and you're going to trail from behind. You got no chance of catching him.
It's like how they describe great wide receivers. If he's even, he's leaving, and he was gone. Andrea Jelavic at the free throw line. Just 500 from the charity stripe this season. And it's a 3-point play for Kentucky, which already has a pair of threes from Colin Chandler.
I think Kentucky's got to be pleased with what they've seen on the defensive end. Vanderbilt has made some shots, but they've been pretty tough, contested, and shots that Kentucky will live with.
Here's Tyler Nickel from deep. Former Tar Heel, and hand fighting down low will get Jelavic with his first personal.
That's a nice look for Nickel. Both teams run a similar play where it's a flare screen and then they peel back for their shooter. Nickel unable to get that one to go down, but that's a play you'll probably see later again from Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt shooting 36% from deep on the season. They make 10 threes a game. Miles, quick release on the fadeaway. And knocked out of bounds by Vanderbilt, and Jalen Washington just in the game. Well, national champion Mark Pope on the sidelines for his second season at Kentucky. It has not been rainbows and puppy dogs. It has been a tough run for the Cats this season. He was incredibly frustrated with the loss in the officiating against Auburn a week ago, and his lighter in the wallet to prove it.
I'll give Coach Pope a ton of credit, though. What a roller coaster season it's been. But if you would have told me who would be one of the 5 bubble teams that the SEC has right now, according to Joe Lunardi and bracketology, to start conference play, I would have said Kentucky. But they're the ones that are more safely in, and there's a ton of teams with a lot at stake in this last week.
Jelavic splashes down his first triple, 6 early for the 6'11 Croatian.
He got off a lot of threes in that road game at South Carolina. Didn't convert a bunch, but he is showing you he is not going to hesitate and very capable from 3. He changes their offense when he's making that shot.
Here's Tyler Tanner. He's been quiet so far, sharing time in the backcourt with Miles. Okereke out to Nickel. Sharpshooter tries to put it on the floor. Chandler Bing with the left hand. Freshman off the mark, but Washington there to help him out.
Yeah, the drive was what brought the second defender over. Nobody came down to help the helper and clean up the glass on the other end.
Oweh going to work. 18-footer good. He can score from anywhere.
And he's got to be able to make that shot as teams try to sit on the penetration with both right hand and left hand.
Tanner. Whoa, what a move! And a beautiful finish by Tyler Tanner.
Yeah, just a little ball fake, smarter than the defense.
Jelavic out to Oweh, steps into a triple. And Nickel with the board. That last play by Tyler Tanner is just a glimpse of what he can do with the ball in his hand. He is a magician. Yeah, he's listed at 6 feet. I'm not buying it, but he is an incredible finisher.
He's got great speed and pace and knows when to go into that extra gear.
From deep. Moreno on another board. 6-point Kentucky advantage early. It's only the second time in this series history that Vandy has been ranked in drop where Kentucky hasn't. But it's Kentucky that's delivering an early message. Colin Chandler has hit 3 triples for the Cats here early on. Okereke on the block against Jelavic, another fadeaway. Bing, the freshman. Nice move on the putback for Chandler Bing.
Well, on this end of the court, Vanderbilt has to find Chandler. He's had 4 wide open looks. He's over 40% from 3. You cannot leave him.
Oweh tried to wrap around pass, threw it off of Vanderbilt. We get a break in the action. A sizzling start for Kentucky. 73% from the floor, and Colin Chandler leading the way.
This guy is absolutely fearless. He loves the big moments, and he loves the big stage. And if you don't get there early, it is over for you. Cash money for Chandler, who is seeing a huge rim, has great arc, and Vanderbilt must find Chandler if they want any shot at a win on the road in Rupp Arena.
Well, Kentucky head coach Mark Pope had Colin Chandler committed to him at BYU. He watched him play a lot of high school ball in BYU's backyard. I'm not sure he knew, though, that he could have such a clear tie into the Commonwealth. Former Kentucky Governor Happy Chandler was the second commissioner of baseball after Kennesaw Mountain Landis. He was part of the Center College football team that had a historic win against Harvard in 1921. That's Happy Chandler. This is Hoppy Chandler. He can jump right out of the building, wait for the last one. And while he's done it behind the arc so far today, Dane, he's done it above the rim all season.
Yeah, he is a dynamite athlete. And what I love about him is what he's done in the clutch, whether it's steals, shots, you name it. And what Coach Pope told Tom Leach earlier today, he said the best thing about him is he can survive a miss late. A lot of players don't want to take those clutch shots because they can't even fathom having to live with missing the game-winning shot. Chandler does not hesitate. He's willing to live with the results and become one of the most clutch players in the SEC.
Well, he's made some massive plays, including on the road against Tennessee, with a steal and a seal to win that one as Kentucky swept against their northern border rivals. Here's Chandler on cue. A dozen for Chandler. His career high for threes made and a half is 4. That came against Georgia and Florida. Both of those in the second half.
A month ago in Nashville, nothing could go right for the Cats to start that game. And right now, nothing can go wrong thanks to Chandler.
Tanner trying to find something positive for Vandy with the kiss off the glass. You mentioned the game in Nashville. They started 1 for 10, Kentucky did, and just 3 for 20 in that game. It turned into a Commodore blowout. Oweh on the curl. Tanner picked up by Mo Dioubate, and now Garrison on the floor as well for the Cats. Miles, no good, and McLaughlin couldn't track it down. Got to find this guy, don't you?
Yeah, and Chandler does a good job sprinting the floor and getting to those corners, and his teammates are finding them, and that's all within the practice routine. You're running the floor. You expect your teammates and shooters to be deep in those corners. Colin Chandler going to get a nice round of applause here as he exits the game.
4 for 5 from deep. He is already tied his career high for 3.5. And he looks a bit winded. You had a long conversation with Mark Pope about Kentucky's substitution patterns, the premier lineups that they have, and he said, listen, this is a very detail-oriented staff. We do a lot of research on this, but it's also very complicated when you try to find out the most efficient 5.
Yeah, and it can change game to game because all these SEC teams have different strengths and weaknesses and depends on who's in the game. But one constant has been Dioubate coming off the bench. His efficiency throughout the team in the 5-man lineups have gone up with 23 and white.
Aberdeen off the window for his first bucket of the game.
I just love the way Aberdeen is playing. So calm, cool, collected. When he plays well and he shoots well, Kentucky wins.
37% from 3 on the season. He gives them 13 a game. Here's Miles. Miles missed significant time for Vanderbilt, and when he did, the Commodores went to a much bigger lineup. There's not a ton of size on the interior, but they get bigger on the wings. Garrison rips it away, had Johnson, but didn't pull the trigger. Kentucky playing some inspired defense here in the first 9 minutes of this one. Oweh into the corner, and a Kentucky turnover. 10-point Kentucky lead. The Cats 10 for 15, and that includes 5 of 8 from deep, and a 10-point Kentucky lead. Saturday Hoops rolls on tonight here on ESPN and the ESPN app at 6 Eastern on Rocky Top. Number 17 Alabama heads to Tennessee. followed by number 20 Arkansas and 7th-ranked Florida. We wrap up the night out in the West Coast Conference. 9th-ranked Gonzaga takes on St. Mary's. Darius Acuff Jr., 8-time SEC Freshman of the Week. For the Arkansas Razorbacks, it'll be a fun one tonight in the Swamp.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Darius Acuff against that Florida defense who dares you to make one-on-one plays, and Acuff can make plenty of those.
Vanderbilt shooting 50% in this game, but having a hard time keeping up with this red-hot Kentucky offense.
I'm surprised Tanner's giving it up so quickly when Garrison gets on him. I mean, he's just throwing it away as if he doesn't have a mismatch of his own.
And then a foul inside.
If there's one windicator for Kentucky in conference play, to me, it's points off turnovers allowed. And in their wins, they're only allowing 9. In losses, it's more than double. And we talked to Coach Pope about that. He said, absolutely. If there is one thing that can lead to a win versus a loss, it's taking care of the basketball. Specifically, 11 turnovers or less is their goal. And right now, they are up 5-0 on points off turnovers. So you can look at nitpick at the lineups and different personnel and shooting percentage, this and that. But for Kentucky to win consistently, they must take care of the ball first.
Tied a season high with 15 turnovers in the Tuesday grind against South Carolina. That game was tied at 48 with 8:17 to play. Then the Cats went on a late run. Garrison nearly picks up a 5-second call. Good defense from Jalen Washington. Aberdeen has to hurry. And an air ball for Vanderbilt. That previous whistle was on Devin McLaughlin, his second personal. So they have to take out one of their key players here before we get midway through the first half.
Yeah, McLaughlin, one of the bigs that can really stretch the court for Vanderbilt. When he's making shots, or Washington as well, all of a sudden the Vanderbilt offense becomes just next level with the amount of shooters they have on the perimeter.
Oweh back on the floor for Kentucky. Let's see if Tyler Tanner, who has 4 of Vandy's 15 attempts here early, starts to take over. Went with the lob and went to the second row of the cheer squad.
Rare turnover for Tanner, who's got a better than 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Thought he had something there that just wasn't.
He is one of the most improved players in the SEC. 18.5 points per game. He was hovering around a half dozen points per game as a freshman last year for Vanderbilt. This is Jasper Johnson, and now Aberdeen. Oweh and Moreno, same side of the floor. 18-footer, no good. Offensive rebound to Johnson's hands, and he finds Aberdeen for 3. Aberdeen's been hot, over 50% over the last 2 games.
Yeah, the best time to get an open 3 is off an offensive rebound. Good job by Johnson being patient, finding his shooter.
Washington working on Moreno. Great defense by the freshman. And stolen away by Oweh. Oweh again. Timeout Vanderbilt. 3 turnovers in the last 3.5 minutes for the Commodores, and the Cats have made them pay. 7-0 Kentucky run.
Oweh's athleticism on full display, jumps the passing lane, and forget about it. I love what you said, Tom. If he's even, he's leaving. You got no chance of catching up to him. One of the most explosive athletes you'll see in the country. And the danger for Vanderbilt isn't just the turnover there. It's having one of the SEC's most dangerous scorers get those easy buckets. That gets a score in an offensive rhythm and could lead to tough things for Vanderbilt in the half court.
That'd be a pick 6 on a football field, and Kentucky's already had a couple of those. Miles left his feet, found Washington, and it used every bit of the rim before going in.
But we talked a lot about Kentucky's rotation. Johnson came in the game, and it was an 8-point lead for Kentucky. And so right now he's a +5. That is a good sign to buy extra time, more minutes for some of the starters. You can't just play 5 guys 38-plus minutes.
Johnson only played 8 minutes in the South Carolina game, and he was in and out of the Auburn game quickly, but that's what he can do, fill it up from deep.
And the good play started before the 3-point make. That's icing on the cake, but he's been very solid prior to that.
Vanderbilt 8 of 16 from the floor, but Kentucky's shooting 68%. Miles, no. Moreno, physical, knocks the ball loose. Off of and out of the hands of Jalen Washington. This Kentucky team is playing inspired basketball here at home today. Rebounded by Washington. Tanner had 19 points in the win at Memorial earlier this season. Quick release nickel, no good. And Aberdeen the board.
Better job of making Vanderbilt be one and done. Early on, Kentucky gave up a couple of those offensive rebounds. See, right now, Kentucky, last two possessions, a little bit of those my turn shots, and you can't get into that. This is a Kentucky team that's really good efficient-wise in that 10 to 20 seconds on the shot clock. Let your offense work.
Mark Pope was talking about that South Carolina game with Tom Leach, the voice of the Cats, and he said, I feel like there were times we carried some agendas at some point in the game, which will never serve you well. Miles contested three. And Vanderbilt is completely out of sorts on the offensive end. Meanwhile, good luck stopping Otegatron. Oweh has impacted this game on both sides of the floor. A pick six for 0-0, a breakaway jam, and Kentucky with a commanding first half advantage at Rupp.
The story of the game has been the live ball turnovers by Vanderbilt and Kentucky being opportunistic with these steals, jumping passing lanes, letting their athleticism shine. Nobody more than Oweh after Chandler got it started from three and they got a good rhythm. Then their defense got into the rhythm with these steals. You see the difference in points off turnovers from the first meeting where they got dominated 20 points to this one where they have shut out Vanderbilt. And when we talked to Coach Byington for Vanderbilt, we talked about Kentucky's half court and ways they have to try to stop them. He goes, yep, but it really all starts in transition. Like, none of it matters if you can't limit your turnovers and find them in transition. So far, Vanderbilt has not passed the test.
Kentucky's shooting 62% so far. Best first half this season was 65% against Valparaiso. 6 to shoot. Oweh's got size on him. Gives it up. Deflection by Nickel. Fadeaway three, Aberdeen. That's how the half is gone for Kentucky.
You can't play defense much better than that for Vanderbilt, but again, the confidence was already brewing for Kentucky as a whole.
Vanderbilt has never won in Rupp Arena as a ranked team. Tyler Nickel leaves it short. They're 0-6 with a number next to their name inside Rupp. Chandler in transition. Step back. Ooh, roof would have come off and that one went. Now from near the logo. No good for Aberdeen. How can Tyler Tanner get his game going?
Yeah, I think he's got to get to the paint. He's a good three-point shooter, but right there is where he can get a paint touch.
And he is able to drop it in over Chandler. Half dozen now for Tanner.
And they didn't bring a ball screen that time. Just let them operate one-on-one and see if the guards for Kentucky, specifically Chandler, who's a little bit slower defender on a guy like Tanner.
Oweh 6'4", 220, being guarded by the 6'7" Okereke. And now inside to Moreno. Jump hook, rolls home for the freshman from Great Crossing High School just up the road in Georgetown.
And they need that from him in the half court. If they can add a reliable force they can dump the ball down to inside, get that little jump hook a couple times a game, it'll really help take some pressure off the guards.
Nickel got by Chandler. And rebounded by Jelavic. Nickel now 0 for 4 in this game. That was his first 2-point attempt. Moreno fouled. Well, Sunday morning on ESPN and the ESPN app, the Women's College Game Day crew will be at TCU at 11 Eastern to get you set for a big day of women's hoops. 12th ranked Duke and number 21 North Carolina get it started at noon. Then it's number 5 Vandy on the road to take on a struggling Tennessee team. The afternoon capped off with number 18 Baylor and number 11 TCU. Another one coming for Moreno. Miles back on the floor for Vanderbilt. He had 15 in his return for Vanderbilt last time out against Georgia on Wednesday. 20-point Kentucky lead.
With McLaughlin in that foul trouble for Vanderbilt. This is a pretty good defensive lineup for Vanderbilt, and That's where it has to start. To climb out of this hole, you've got to be able to get consecutive stops, not try to shoot your way into it.
Okereke on Garrison. Miles hit his first, but he's been quiet since. That's another air ball, and he has now missed his last 6 attempts.
I credit Oweh, too. It seems like he knows Miles is going to shoot it before Miles does. The last 2 contests Oweh has had have been absolutely perfect, giving Miles no clean look at the rim.
You surprised by this lead?
A little bit, yeah, I am. You knew Kentucky would come out with their hair on fire and be ready to play, try to get that redemption opportunity, a great crowd. But I think Vanderbilt full strength now with Miles back in. A little bit stunned. They've been so rusty.
Aberdeen from the lane logo, and Okereke has the rebound. Here's Tanner. Around the curl, gets stuck in no man's land and finds Bing in the corner.
I will say Vanderbilt has had some clean looks there. Nickel, Bing, they have just not been able to knock any down. 2 of 11 from 3 so far in this one.
Lob to Garrison. And he lost it on his way up. Here comes Duke Miles, 6th year in college basketball. And he gives it up, and a nice finish by A.K. Okereke.
Okereke, really a glue guy for this Vanderbilt team. Does so much on the defensive end, offensively. He can be a primary ball handler for you, whatever you need.
Mouse in the house.
And it's a small layup, but that's a big one for Garrison. He's really struggled around the rim. I think he needed to see one go in, especially down low.
Well, with this lead, Mark Pope has been able to shuffle his rotation a little bit. And the subs are still giving him great breathing room. He said, our bench will play better. Sounded equal parts belief and threat at the same time when he said it. 20-point Kentucky lead. We got a timeout on the floor in Lexington. Oweh picks up the personal there, but the Cats looking for some relief here at home in a penultimate home game for Kentucky this season. All blue early.
And we'll see it that.
Hi, Zubin. Thanks. Coach Crean is onto something here because this is a Vanderbilt team in non-conference play that played with up-tempo. They pressed 94 feet. That was when they were fully healthy in the backcourt. That included Frankie Collins, who hasn't played since mid-December. Now they've been better and more efficient when things have moved at a slower pace, although today has been a bit messy.
Well, and having Miles back in the lineup, they've got 2 fast guards as he gets a bucket there. Whereas when it was just Tanner as a speedy guard, they had to slow it down a little bit. So there is an adjustment period going back to the way they were. But on the road, got to get quality looks like you got right there.
Vanderbilt got off to a fantastic start this season, but over the last 12, they played 500 basketball. Oweh may have turned his ankle as he went down. He's reaching for his left heel as he got to his feet. 6 to shoot. Jelavic isn't aware of the shot clock. Chandler. Glance at the shot clock, off balance 15-footer, and here's Miles. See what kind of run Vandy has. What a beautiful feed from Miles, and nice positioning by Jalen Washington's going to half dozen.
You called it. Miles knew that was going to be open before the opening was even there. A great read and set play by Coach Byington. Kentucky
had a 20-point lead at 42-22. Previous largest lead in a conference game this season was just 11. That came against Oklahoma. Oweh challenged 3.
Yeah, that's the wrong guy to try to shoot over the top of. When you got that length on you, try to drive Okereke, but 10 can contest and he can move his feet.
Miles gets the whistle on Garrison.
Take a look back at that Miles dime on the ball screen. He's going to get the roll here and just whips it around. He really can't even see Washington. He just knew that's where the play design was going, and once he had 2 guys on the ball, he knew somebody was going to be open. and he picked the right path.
Doug Shows is headed to the monitor to see if that was a 3 from Duke Miles. This actually, in a way, came up in our conversation with Mark Pope at Shoot Around today. That's continuation that's at play in college basketball now. And heady players taking advantage of a whistle on a regular foul than to turn it into a shooting foul. And he saw Garrison was off balance coming at him. This will be a 3, and so 3 free throws coming for Duke Miles, who has made 33 of 35 in league play.
Yeah, just barely nicked him, but once you jump in the air, all of a sudden you are no longer in legal guarding position, especially if you're going from point A to point B, and you're at the mercy of the offense. Heads up play there by Miles. And all of a sudden Vanderbilt's put together 3 consecutive good possessions on the offensive end, and they're following it up with stops. That's how you climb back in this thing and try to close out the half and reset in the locker room.
Well, the well-traveled Duke Miles was described by Mark Byington earlier this season as being a cerebral player, and you saw that on that last attempt. Out of Lee High School and Percy Julian High School in Montgomery, Alabama, he played at Troy, and then High Point, and then Oklahoma. And he was committed to 3 different teams when he was in the portal. First Virginia, then Texas A&M, and finally ends up at Vanderbilt. What a whirlwind offseason it was for Miles.
He was like a bachelor of the transfer portal. He was just giving roses out, taking them away. You know, but at High Point, he was a key feature. I think that was a big part of it. Was like, hey, he knew that he could play in a certain role, but he also had the confidence to bet on himself, say, hey, look, I can be a lead scoring guard, and he's found a home here at Vanderbilt.
18 points a game at High Point. Vandy on a 7-0 run over the last 3 minutes. Aberdeen to Moreno to Chandler. Great ball movement, and Chandler for 3 again. And a glance back at the Vanderbilt bench after that one. Not afraid to talk a little trash. It's a 15-point first half for Chandler. And Moreno rips it off the rim. And Chandler draws the whistle. They'll get Okereke for that one.
Well, this is all about ball watching, and a mistake by Duke Miles. You're on a shooter, and keep an eye on Miles. He's going to stare at the ball. As soon as Moreno gets it, he's staring at the ball. He does not see man and ball, staring, and says, oh my gosh, I just left Chandler, who does a great job being patient, pump fakes the defender who was closing out with undisciplined footwork, and gets another open look. But a lot of that's on Vanderbilt. You just got to see man and ball and understand where the red-hot shooter is.
What a half for Chandler. We had that Auburn game where he turned it over 5 times in the second half. Moreno gets whistled for the illegal screen, his first. And it's a nice bounce-back game for Chandler. Utah Gatorade Player of the Year in 23, coming out of high school, then 2 years on an LDS mission. We're putting the uniform back on last season for Kentucky. Miles tried to thread the needle again. And the ball trickles over the end line. It'll be Kentucky basketball. Chandler ended up picking up the floor burn to earn the possession, and a standing ovation inside Rupp Arena for the effort from Colin Chandler.
Oh, if there was ever a culture clip you want to play in the locker room for your team, it's that right there. Everybody else staring at the ball, and where's Chandler come from? He beats everyone to it, flies in there, knowing he probably can't get it, but gets the deflection and gets a big turnover for Kentucky.
You mentioned earlier that Mark Pope described him as having the ability of forgetting about bad plays, and can apply that to forgetting about that bad second half at Auburn a week ago. Here's Mo Dioubate, and he draws the foul, and Okereke took a shot to the forehead on that.
A contested shot for Dioubate, but I like his shot selection better when he's penetrating from the wing or the side where he can get a bounce. When he's trying to post up and it just becomes a black hole down there shooting over taller defenders, it's usually not a good outcome. But when he can drive left, he's a much better threat offensively.
Mohamed Dioubate from Queens, New York, transferred in from Alabama Takes a deep breath. He was up earlier than most this morning because during Ramadan he has to get all the nutrients he can before sunrise. The fast lasts from dawn to sunset. It's not just food, it's also water. Imagine coming out for shoot-around earlier this morning and then playing in a high-level college basketball game and fasting with no water. In fact, for the Alabama game, he was able to break his fast on the way to the game on the bus and was scarfing down pasta and salmon less than 2 hours before tip-off.
Whether he's been fed or not, he's a guy you want in late games. He's come up with some huge offensive rebounds if this game is close and late, but Vanderbilt's got some work to do if they want any of that.
Tanner gives it up. Here's Okereke. Shot clock off. 3 to play. Okereke wanted a whistle, and he got it. Maybe a hair delayed, but it'll be the first personal on Denzel Aberdeen. Vanderbilt looking to build on something late in the half.
And Okereke can make this shot, but Kentucky has shown that they are okay letting him take these. And he's such a great story. Went to Cornell as a student. He wanted to play basketball there, and the Cornell coaching staff said, hey, look, we've recruited you, but if you really want to play basketball, go somewhere else. And he came there anyway, hung around the team, eventually got a tryout. If you look at the freshman picture of his freshman season, he doesn't even have a profile picture. He's not pictured on the roster, and now he's a top player for a top 25 team in the SEC.
Chandler? Well, wouldn't that have been a magical end to a first half? You get a high five from Goose Gibbons on your way off the court, you've done something right, and he did a lot. Career high in the first half, 15 points on 5 threes. And Kentucky with a dominating performance. They'll take a 15-point lead into the break. Plenty to talk about. Let's get you back to the studio. And the law firm of Mahenti, Keats, and Crean to walk you through everything. Gentlemen, all yours. Lexington, Kentucky. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. Winningest program in college basketball history has been off to a stampede today, and it got off to a fantastic start as Captain Harold Barber was on the court for our national anthem. Thank you, sir, for your service and to all who serve. Kentucky, 15-point lead as we get ready to start the second half. Welcome back. Courtside, Tom Hart alongside Dane Bradshaw. A scintillating start for this Kentucky offense, which was looking for some rhythm. They found it with Colin Chandler.
Yeah, he got them off to a red-hot start. He got this crowd into it early, and he sprinted in transition. They got paint touches. They found the shooter. Some short closeouts at times by Vanderbilt, and you just can't leave him open. But it wasn't just that. This was the play of the half right here for Colin Chandler. Getting to the loose ball first, getting the deflection. That got the crowd even more amped up. And then Vanderbilt came in this game tops in conference play at turning people over. They got a little bit of taste of their own medicine. Oweh jumping passing lanes, getting those easy buckets, and winning that critical points off turnover margin that Kentucky has to fix if they want to be an elite team.
Chandler from deep. I didn't know if we're inside rough or at the Bath County meat showers. 5 for 7 from behind the arc. What a start to this game for Chandler. Well, he loses Nickel on the screen, and announcer Jinx gets him. Tyler Nickel's first bucket comes from point-blank range.
Yeah, confusion there as Nickel just came around that double screen. This is a Vanderbilt team that does have some spurtability. They're top 25 in the country at 10-0 runs. They've had 24 on the season. They could certainly use one here.
Got off to a 16-0 start this season. One of the best starts in school history. Chandler gets tied up off of the knee of McLaughlin and out of bounds. 6 seconds on the shot clock. Let's see what they have drawn up. Vandy worked on this a lot in shoot-around last night. Oweh collects the lob and is able to finish.
Yeah, good set play there by Kentucky and good find. You always want one of your best passers to take the ball out. They found Oweh there.
Tyler Tanner is Vanderbilt's leading scorer. He has 6 points and hasn't made a 3 so far.
We'll take a look at that baseline out of bounds play by Coach Pope, and kind of a slow developing play, but instead of Oweh popping out to the perimeter, he comes right back into the paint with a nice lob, wanted the and one, and they found a way to get him easy buckets, whether it's that off of turnovers, something he did not have on the road at South Carolina.
Tanner picked up by Moreno. Attacks the big and gives it out to Nickel. In and out for Nickel. Jelavic the board.
I think Tanner can shoot some of those. He's gotten the 5-man on him several times in this game, and I think he's bailing out the defender. I want to see him keep the ball in his hands and shoot that mid-range.
Well, he's so good at the rim, but his efficiency drops by about 25 percentage points from the rim to 4 to 8 feet. Chandler on Okereke. 6 on the shot clock. Here's Aberdeen. He's thrown in a couple of late shot clock threes already. Moreno had the hand on the rebound. It will go out of bounds and stay with Kentucky.
Well, one of the adjustments you see from Vanderbilt to start this second half is number 10 in black, Okereke, is going to have the assignment. He can switch on Chandler or Oweh, and so there's times where he's on Oweh, and then they'll also say, hey, we can switch this on the guard side to make sure you always have length on Chandler.
Oweh. And McLaughlin finally collects this one. Vandy trails by 15, looking for a surge. It's Duke Miles for 3.
Yeah, you can't just let them walk right into it. In the first half, they contested threes really well, did Kentucky, and that one, Miles saw a clean rim and made them pay.
Vandy picking up full court pressure now. Tanner on Aberdeen. Oweh lost it across the baseline, and the window is open for Vanderbilt.
He's going to have to jab baseline and come back middle. Teams are sitting on that baseline drive of his. When he gets it in the corner, he's going hard right or hard left, depending on which side, and he's had a few turnovers.
Lead hasn't been down to single digits since the 13:06 mark of the first half.
Boy, that would have been a big one.
Yeah. Back when it was 24-16. Aberdeen got by Okereke, got the whistle, and he'll be shooting 2.
With Denzel Aberdeen at the line, you've heard me talk about how impressed I've been with a guy that really came in as a scoring guard and having to take point guard responsibilities. He's got just 1 turnover the last 3 games and played 107 minutes. And so he has really done a terrific job of leading this team, being a decision maker and game manager.
Mark Byington is chatting with the officials. He thinks they had the foul wrong. They charged McLaughlin with the foul, which is his 3rd personal. Okereke was the primary defender on that Aberdeen drive. So to leave McLaughlin in right now as Aberdeen goes to the free throw line. NBA returns tonight over on ABC as the Lakers take on the Warriors at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Ernie, Kenny, Charles, and Shaq tip-off coverage at 8 Eastern, and they'll also be back after the game to break down the entire day in the NBA. They corrected, it is on Okereke now. It was announced as McLaughlin, so 2 each for the Vandy Bigs as Aberdeen knocks down a pair. Oh, they're physical. Hard screen that time. Noah fought through it, and he fights through to pick up Nickel. Here's McLaughlin. Handoff Nickel. Corner 3. Back iron. And rebounded by Noah.
You wouldn't know it based on how he shot tonight, but Nickel, one of the premier 3-point shooters, and if Vanderbilt is going to be able to steal one, he's got to get hot.
Yeah, but he is 20 points better from the right side of the floor versus the left side. He has not made a 3 yet tonight, 0 for 5, and now Tyler Nickel picks up his first personal. Senior from Harrisonburg, Virginia. He was recruited by Mark Byington when Byington was head coach at James Madison. Nickel was a top recruit. Mark was telling me before the game today, he said as soon as I got on campus, I extended a scholarship offer to Tyler, knowing he was out of our reach at JMU. He ended up going to North Carolina and then Virginia Tech, and his scoring has blossomed this season.
First player from East Rockingham High School to go D1, making him proud. He's got to have a short memory, though. You got to have amnesia right now as a shooter.
Stolen away by Jelavic. And then Tanner rips it right back.
Well, he just did a little dribble drill on that, too. He just tapped it away, kept that dribble low, gets it right back. Tanner so quick.
Miles hesitated, coming around the curl to McLaughlin for three. He can shoot it from there, but he's missed his last couple. And Vanderbilt as a team is just 3 for 16 from behind the arc. And McLaughlin trying to fight around the post up, commits his third.
They're getting some frustration as Vanderbilt, not seeing the ball go in. And it's human nature, but it's really hard. You got to make sure you don't allow your offensive lack of success to dictate your defensive intensity and discipline. And that's the challenge right now for Vanderbilt after a really frustrating afternoon so far on the offensive side.
Compare Vandy's struggles from deep to Kentucky's success. 9 for 17 from three for the Cats. Miles chasing Chandler now. Aberdeen for three. Got it.
And Coach Byington said that's what you can't let Aberdeen do, is let him just walk into threes and go under ball screens. You got to extend up if you're going to switch.
Leads back to 19. What a turnaround from Vandy's dismantling of Kentucky and Memorial last month. And now Okereke with a triple. He's made 6 of his last 9 from three. Moreno loses it. Another rip for Tyler Tanner, who's 9th in the country in steals. And Nichols' 12-footer goes home.
See if that can get him going, but Kentucky inconsistent taking care of the ball, especially their 5 men. They've got to be able to handle the ball and value it because so much offense runs through the 5 men at the top of the key.
Nickel had 19 in the matchup in Nashville's West End. Different story this afternoon. Mark Pope takes a timeout with the Cats up 14.
Well, I wouldn't categorize Denzel Aberdeen as one of the top shooters in the SEC. You have to play him like one because when he sees a clean rim and he gets efficient from 2 and 3, Kentucky wins. It's as simple as that. When you contest, make his threes tough, contest at the rim, they struggle. And you can see what happens in wins and losses. And not just him as a ball handler, but him as a scorer. So you can't relax. Even though he's not the primary scorer on the team, and you got to worry about Chandler, Oweh, you got to treat him with a sense of urgency.
Won a national title with Todd Golden last year as a 6th man on that Florida team. And to Dane's point earlier in the broadcast, he came here as a 2-guard and then was a hybrid for a little while before the injury to Jalen Lowe finally took him out. Chandler again. It's Colin Chandler Day in the Bluegrass.
And such a good read. The defender was expecting Chandler to come off the ball screen, and he just stops right behind it and says, I'm wide open. I can shoot it from NBA range.
He's tied his career high now with 18. Okereke shuffled his feet. That sends us to a break. It's a 17-point lead for Kentucky. Colin Chandler has 18. Kept it clutch. At it again after a monster first half with a guy in a Pope outfit watching. Colin Chandler taking this to another level. Florida leading the SEC, a chance to grab a share of the regular season title and try to slow down Darius Acuff Jr.
Yeah, he's on his way to being the SEC Player of the Year as a freshman. Everybody talks about defense travels. Well, so does taking care of the ball. Arkansas has the lowest turnover rate in the country. Really curious to see, though. Florida leads the country, or excuse me, leads the conference in allowing the least amount of assists per game. So,
oh my goodness! They're gonna wave it off. We'll say Chandler kicked out his foot to try and draw the foul. It's the only time the home crowd's been unhappy today. Second personal on Chandler. They'll re-inbound it. There goes in to Tanner. Everything was good there. It came with the right foot that came out after the release.
I would argue that's part of Chandler's normal shooting motion. Didn't get a great look at it there if he extended it even further.
And it comes with Chandler chasing the Kentucky all-time record for threes in a game. That would have been his 7th. Jody Meeks had 10 in the 54-point against A&M.
I do think he extended a little bit further than he normally does.
And a Vandy turnover. The Rupp Arena record is 9 by our buddy Tony Delk. That came against TCU in 1996. That dude rocked. 17-point lead for Kentucky. Very rarely do you see that called on the offensive side. It's become a player safety issue. We see a lot of defenders getting into the landing spot that is called on a regular basis against jump shooters.
Yeah, after seeing that angle of the replay, I think they got it right.
Here's Dioubate. And foul on his way to the rim. The second on Jalen Washington. And so it says Mo Dioubate to the free throw line.
Dioubate at the line for 2.
He is 1 for 3 at the free throw line today.
I think Kentucky's done a really good job of weathering the storm as Vanderbilt was coming out with a lot of aggression, trying to cut in this lead, made some plays, and Kentucky has had a really good response. It's hard to play with a big lead. It's easy to get complacent, and at some point, the opponent, who's very talented, is going to make a run. But so far, Kentucky's been able to hold them off. 3-point edge here in the second half.
Nickel, quick release. Got it.
Well, that's hand down, man down. Chandler should know that. He sees the same thing. If somebody closes out with their hands down, he's letting it fly. Nickel showed him.
Fifth 3 of the game for Vandy. Kentucky splashed down 11 of them. Aberdeen can't connect, and then Garrison went down hard, very hard. And Mark Pope quickly out. Pull his players back and check on Garrison, who's holding his face. I just showed the replay in the building. And Mark Pope is all over the officials. He wants an ejection on this play. Blocked in with the left arm to the face of Garrison.
The previous action is under review.
At the very least, it's a 4th on Devin McLaughlin.
Yeah,
man, that looks violent.
Yeah, that's an F1 for sure. And if it's extreme or severe, it can be elevated to an F2. And with the way that head got nailed back, I could see them possibly elevating this to an F2.
Correct myself. They actually got Nickel on the foul before the shot attempt from Garrison. This will be likely 2 fouls against Vanderbilt, the personal on Nickel, and then F1 or 2 on Devin McLaughlin.
I was impressed after that type of contact. Usually you see teams getting into each other's face a little bit more. Teams say pretty separated and calm on that. I'm not sure if half the guys out there even saw what happened, because Mark Pope certainly did, and he came off the bench to come make his point crystal clear. Certainly wasn't close enough to the ball, trying to foul. And anytime it's above that head and neck, it's going to get upgraded. we'll just see how much it does. Well, because the foul occurred prior to that, they're treating it as a dead ball technical foul, as opposed to elevated to an F1 or F2. So still get the technical.
After review, we have a common foul on Vanderbilt number 5, but also, in addition to that, we also have a dead ball contact technical foul on Vanderbilt number 99. Kentucky will shoot 2 free throws from the ball on the baseline.
Doug Shaw's like an elementary school teacher. Let me finish. Just let me finish. The first on Nickel, and then dead ball technical on McLaughlin. Here's the only, it's really just bookkeeping, because the only difference between a technical and a flagrant is you get 3 flagrants versus 2 technicals before an ejection, but McLaughlin's got 4 fouls anyway, so it's a non-factor.
Yeah,
I think Mark Byington's point is that he's trying to fight for my guy was trying to block his shot.
Yeah. I think Doug Showles, if he could do it all over again, given the animosity of this crowd over that play, say, I'll get to the technical in a moment. First, let me go here. The way everybody jumped to conclusions when they heard the common foul. Everybody jump to conclusions, Matt?
Yeah. I also had a pet rock. So here's Chandler at the free throw line. At halftime, in the bowels of the stadium, Colin Chandler was given as high a compliment as I can remember a Kentucky player get from an old school Kentucky fan. He said Colin Chandler is Rex Chapman. Now, the hops conversation, sure. The threes, Colin off to a great start. But it was presented to me in the way that when Rex would start a game hot, he was untouchable. And Colin Chandler got off to a red-hot start in this one. And if he can do that, Dane, that elevates this entire Kentucky team. And the ceiling for Kentucky with Colin Chandler playing like that extends deep into the NCAA tournament. The floor is something altogether different.
Well, and he's also absolutely fearless.
Moreno late in the shot clock. Lost it, regathers, and gets it. Here's Tyler Tanner. Spins and banks it in. That's what he can do so well, but that's his first bucket of the second half.
Well, Vanderbilt starting to run out of time here in order to get this thing down to single digits before maybe the 8-minute mark or so. But this is a Kentucky team that can be patient. They are at their best percentage-wise in this 10 to 20 seconds on the shot clock. The lower it gets, the less efficient they are.
Moreno was all alone for a split second. Dioubate, once again, late shot clock. And rebounded by Okereke. Okereke can run some point. He did that in the A&M game when Tanner was in foul trouble. Saved across the baseline by Dioubate. Oweh with a burst and one. That dude can go.
Yeah, this guy's got an extra gear, and he can go right or left, but look at the explosiveness. Just going to cross it over, finish above the rim, through contact. Oweh, good luck stopping him in transition.
Kentucky Invitational of the weekend. They're trying to get into a double bye situation. They have a tiebreaker over Tennessee. They swept the Volunteers, so that would be a big advantage for Kentucky in a race for the top 4 spots. Here's what's left. Vandy goes to Ole Miss. It's a 3 straight on the road for Vandy. Remember, they swapped the Ole Miss dates because of the big ice storm in Oxford last month. Kentucky will be at A&M on Tuesday night on ESPN, and they close with Florida here for Senior Day.
And if Kentucky can hang on here, a quad one win, which was a big measuring stick for the selection committee, and then 2 more quad one opportunities. So again, the resiliency of this team with the injuries they've had, and no point guard, no center. Cam Williams, kind of your hybrid Swiss Army knife, he's not available. It's just been really impressive.
Miles spins on Chandler, comes up with a steal. Johnson back to Chandler. He wanted to pull, didn't he? Nice back cut. Oh, he wanted to deliver a hammer. Got fouled by Okereke, and it'll be the 4th on A.K. Okereke.
If he got that one, they were going to have to create an IPA called the Hoppy Chandler for this one, because my goodness, you get that one over Okereke. He has been a highlight reel at times. It's going to start with the backdoor look and a good pass by Moreno, and then, man, you come over as a defender, you jump in the air, and you're just hoping that that ball doesn't go in. Trust me, I've been on the wrong side of that before. Kentucky fans, Kalina Azubuike.
Largest lead of the game.
Put a forearm in my throat. I actually even tried to foul him. They didn't even call it.
Really?
Yeah.
How are your vocal cords after that? Your
They're
left
terrible.
or right?
I was trying to call like play 5. I was like, 5.
Little
Back of the
shot.
choir, is that what you said?
Yeah, change rows. Tanner into double figures now with 10. Johnson picked up by Tanner. Moreno pulling a Barkley. Dioubate on the glass and foul.
That's what Dioubate can do, is the offensive rebound opportunities there. And they didn't quite get the deep paint touch that they wanted from Moreno with the positioning. But if they're not going to bring a double team, it's just interesting to see that Mark Pope is okay with that isolation play. And it can just be another added piece to this Kentucky half-court offense.
Chandler gets a breather.
That guy plays with a ton of heart, so it's not just the three-point shooting, but I've always said, I mean, you want to endear yourself to a fan base. Play with the effort and energy that the fans would play with if they were ever blessed with the opportunity to wear this jersey, and I think that's what endears Chandler to this fan base so much.
6 for 8 from deep and 21 points, a career high for Colin Chandler. Dioubate. Catch by 21 Biggins. Here's Bing. Miles gives it up to Nickel. Out to Chandler Bing. He has never seen friends. Back to Bing, and Miss Chandler Bong with the jam.
Well, they've got about 4 ball reversals. Good patience by Vanderbilt, even though you're down, trusting your offense. This Kentucky team has been really good in their half-court defense. Vanderbilt gets one there, though.
Did you ever watch Friends?
No, I really didn't. I wish I could play along a little bit better, but
well,
it's all you.
Moreno lost it, and Tanner ends up on his back.
I was too busy watching mature shows like South Park and Family Guy.
That's where your sense of humor comes from. That's why we get along so well. So Kentucky turnover. Cats up 19. It'll be a tough closing stretch for Vandy, living on the road and out of suitcases until they get to Nashville for the SEC tournament. Jalen Washington with the lob. Dunk.
There's got to be some backside help there by Kentucky. A good job just by Vanderbilt getting 2 people to guard the ball. Nobody had the rim protection.
Here's Jasper Johnson. What a year it's been for Denzel Aberdeen. Frustrated early, settled into the role as a point guard coming off of a national championship season. And he's really produced lately. Oweh goes one-on-one with a turnaround.
And it sure does help when you can have a guy that you can just get the ball to and say, everybody clear out, let him make a play.
Everybody in the building saw a walk. Tyler Tanner saw an opportunity. Now he's got a dozen. Dioubate not picked up, and Tanner with the foul.
See what happens here is Tanner, loose ball situation, finds a way to get it. And Oweh has become a really good two-way player in this league. Everybody talks about his scoring, but that big Arkansas win, he was also the key defender on Darius Acuff.
So here's Dioubate to the free throw line again. Chandler set to return to the floor for Kentucky. Yeah, we were talking with Mark Byington and shoot around inside Rupp Arena last night. This was his second time as a head coach inside Rupp. They were here last year, and he reminded us, he said, it's not my first time. I've been here a few times, though. In fact, he was an assistant of the great Bobby Cremins at College of Charleston. They came up here years ago, and he said, we were in the game in the first half. Go to a timeout, and I grabbed Bobby, who's a big film buff and a big Hollywood fan. And I said, Coach, I think we need to get out of the zone and go to man. And Cremins was distracted. And he said, yeah, Mark, why don't you take the huddle? I said, what? He goes, you take the huddle. And he couldn't figure out why Bobby Cremins was distracted. And he looks out, and as a big Hollywood fan and film buff, he noticed that they were honoring Ashley Judd during the timeout. And Bobby Cremins wanted to take part in get eyes on the ceremony instead of worrying about the timeout.
Yeah, he joined the standing ovation.
Here's Bing. And Aberdeen whistled for the foul inside. Entire family honored.
That is a great story. Think of that as an assistant. He said, look, big movie buff, as you mentioned. He goes, also a little bit of ADD. Both on full display.
He's got Cremins' nephew, John Cremins, on his staff. He's also got Tom Izzo's nephew on the staff. Has had him there for a while back to JMU time. 73-54, Kentucky leading. When we return, we'll talk about the time Candace Parker dunked on Dane.
The previous action.
All right, thanks, gentlemen. Yeah, DP was a DNP in the win for Kansas. Fog Allen against Arizona handed them the first loss of the season. Could be good to get Koa Pete back on the floor. He hadn't played the last three.
We have a flagrant one foul on number one for Kentucky for a hook and hold. And 2 free throws and the ball out of bounds for Vanderbilt.
Here's a look at it.
Thought this was the right call. You're going to see Aberdeen really clamp. First he gets his hand in there, clamps down, and that is a classic hook and hold.
So Jalen Washington at the free throw line. Senior from Gary, Indiana, out of Westside High School. Was number 2 in his senior class academically. National Honor Society, plays the piano and the cello. Went on to North Carolina 3 seasons with the Tar Heels. North Carolina's got Virginia Tech tonight. Tar Heels undefeated in the Dean Smith Center this season, 16-0.
Vanderbilt's made 4 of their last 5, and they get to the free throw line. They've just got to find a way to follow up scores with a stop.
Washington going to work on Oweh. And that one was above the rim.
Yeah, I think they got the goaltend there. Good job recognizing the mismatch, and Kentucky did not come help down Oweh down low.
Looked like Garrison got his hand on it.
Yeah.
So here's the full court pressure for Vandy, trapping for the first time. Kentucky solves it easily. Dioubate! And it takes a victory lap before falling. First field goal today for Dioubate. Washington all alone.
Well, this is a really good Vanderbilt offense that has looked flustered at times with Kentucky's half-court defense, but They run so much good misdirection, ball screen action, ways they get into the screen. And you can see the result there. Oftentimes teams get confused and end up with 2 guys on the ball, leaving somebody wide open.
Nice.
Kentucky shows you a little bit of their 5 out as well. And that's why these 5 men are so important for Kentucky. The ability to throw those backdoor passes as well as just the dribble handoff. Good read there by Garrison.
What a quandary defensively, right? If you overplay Oweh, then you're leaving Chandler right behind him open on the wing.
Yeah, and these guards have become really good at reading that. If the defender's playing on top, they feel it and they back cut. We saw Oweh get one of those huge ones against Arkansas when they overplayed, got a backdoor dunk. Really high IQ basketball team.
Oweh coming off of his first game in single digits this season. Only had 8 in the win at South Carolina. Malik Monk had 30 consecutive in double figures, previous long run before Oweh's. And that came to an end against the Gamecocks. 16-point lead, 7:20 to play.
Now we're talking about Vanderbilt needing to get a stop, but Kentucky could have this thing 20 plus if they could get one as well.
Tanner cut off. Harris. And Nickel is on the glass. Nothing there.
Been one of those nights for Nickel. Oh, that's tough.
And Aberdeen finishes.
He keeps the defender in jail, keeps him on his back, then navigates the big, and then just does a low crossover, get all the way to the rim.
So which would be worse if you were Tyler Nickel and you're just 1 for 8 from deep or getting dunked on by Candace Parker?
Boy. Let me just go.
I promised the story. You got to pay it off.
I got you. Let me just show this real quick. So look there. He gets the defender in the back, and then, oh my gosh, a low crossover and makes the defender play a little game of twister. Left hand on blue, right foot on green. Nice play by Aberdeen. Are you saying did I get dunked on?
I heard the story that when you were playing at Tennessee for Bruce Pearl, that there was a pickup game during the summer where you got dunked on by Candace Parker. I'm just relaying the story that I heard from back in the day. And she was an elite player. There's no shame in it, Dane.
I was not there the summer session she got there. She dunked on somebody else that looked similar to me. And as I showed up to campus, that apparently happened the day before I got there. And I'm walking around, they're like, yeah, that's the one. That's the one she banged on yesterday. And I'm like, no, you got the wrong guy. They're like, no, you're just trying to hide it. But
this day and age, somebody would have had a cell phone out. You would have been either proven right or wrong. A strong move by Oweh. He's got 16.
Right. Kentucky's ability to respond anytime Vanderbilt throws a punch and be able to play with this lead and sustain this energy, especially offensively.
Moreno tips it to Oweh, takes out some bowling pins, a.k.a. photogs, and now a hard screen at the top frees Oweh.
Huge screen by Dioubate, who sat in there and took it.
On their feet at Rupp Arena. Chandler trying to muscle Bing and commits the foul.
Oweh at a really efficient 18 points on 8 of 14. He's going to drive hard to this left. A lot of teams are starting to sit on the left hand, even though he's really good going right as well, and then gets a massive screen by Dioubate, and nobody calls it out. And then you're one-on-one in the lane with Oweh. Forget about it. He can miss some bunnies at times, but when you compare him to the top guards in the SEC, he's right up there with Acuff and Phylon at getting to the rim and finishing above 70%.
Another one coming for Chandler Bing. Vanderbilt is perfect at the free throw line. Now 9 for 9 today. Double figures in 61 of 65 games at Kentucky for Oweh. Has really come into his own since transferring from Porter Moser's Oklahoma program. Chandler, man of the hour. And with the left-hand push.
Very similar play to Aberdeen. He put the defender on his back, waited for his big man to just plug up the lane, and gets an easy 2. Similar action, same result.
Tanner high off the glass.
Starting to be a little bit of a pickup game at this point. Nobody making much progress.
Moreno. Old school. And we've got a timeout with Kentucky leading 86-67. The local product, Malachi Moreno, leading the way for the Cats, who have made each of their last 7. SEC Women's Tournament begins Wednesday in Greenville, South Carolina. SEC Network will have all of the first and second round games, as well as the late quarter games. First round coverage begins at 10:30 a.m. Eastern with the SEC Now crew. Ran into women's basketball royalty before the game today. Debbie Antonelli in the building. She's headed over to Louisville to call their game tomorrow. The Kentucky women have South Carolina at historical Memorial Coliseum on campus tomorrow.
Debbie Antonelli, unbelievable charity. 24 hours straight of shooting free throws, raising a ton of money.
Does it every summer.
Was it 2,400, I believe, she made in a 24-hour span? Kids can say, what'd your mom do yesterday?
Can your kids ask that question a lot?
Yeah.
Good hustle by Moreno, whose great crossing team won last night against Franklin County. They advanced to play in the 11th regional. This week they'll take on, try to move on to the final 16 here at Rupp. Here's Oweh. Nifty move by Oweh.
I think you got to sit on his left hand. Yes, he's a right-handed guy. And typically you say, don't let him go right. But this guy loves to get downhill going left. He's going to jab right and then just straight line north-south driver and flies in there. And there's a lot of talk about, hey, play off 2 feet, play off 2. But these dynamite athletes such as Oweh that are so explosive, you really, if you can get an edge, go fly in there off 1. And that's different now because of the change to the block charge rule a year ago, where guys aren't able to slide over and take charges. You're not going to have those collisions anymore like you used to. And it really benefits the better athletes that can jump off 1 and be quick to the rim.
Oh, wait, great crossing would take on Richmond Model. Here's Tanner for 3. Nickel fires. Here's Oweh again. Tanner was waiting in the passing lane. Well, Tanner was surprised he was open.
What a deflection by Tanner. He read that and intercepted that beautifully. Certainly not their best night, but shows you a little bit of his ability.
One of the great chants in college basketball. Oweh, Oweh, Oweh. And away we go with Kentucky leading by 20.
All around the world, y'all know.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Great to see Koa Pete back. He had a monster game to open the season against Florida. Here's our game summary. Vandy has tied its largest deficit of the season by being behind by 20 a couple of times tonight. And Kentucky has flipped the script on the points off turnovers. Plus 11 in that category this afternoon. Tom Hart, Dane Bradshaw, our fantastic crew here in Lexington. Kentucky will go on the road to Texas A&M on Tuesday night. And then close at home with the Florida Gators on Saturday. And they have everything really out in front of them right now. As unpredictable as the season and this group has been.
Again, if you had asked me in January which of the SEC teams would be on the bubble, I would have said probably Kentucky, but they have played their way well above that, looking like a tournament team, picking up another big quad 1 win to add to their resume. And when you look at the eye test, based on how they're playing right now in front of us, boy, this is a confident ball club.
Second three this half for Nickel. Mark Story, the Lexington Herald leader, had a column this week where he said that the next month is really going to determine what Mark Pope's coaching career looks like here at his alma mater. And it starts today. That is an offensive foul going against Dioubate with the push-up. But you have this, you have the SEC tournament, and with the win here tonight, and then if they get one at A&M, now all of a sudden you're looking much better in terms of the seeding and positioning, trying to avoid the first day of the SEC tournament, and then of course the postseason, the big games.
They certainly will be battle tested going into March, and the fact that they've had to go through so much, whether it's injuries or scheduling, but this team right now, as Nickel gets another one to drop, is starting to get an identity.
Mark Pope was very clear. He said a lot of those mistakes, issues we've had have been self-inflicted, including the struggles against South Carolina.
Well, this is a Vanderbilt team. Look, you never want to say never, because this Vanderbilt team was down huge against Oklahoma, and they came roaring back to lose that 1-1. Same thing against Missouri, so you got to be able to close them out.
Yeah, they nearly knocked off Mizzou at the buzzer. Meanwhile, Colin Chandler at the opening tip was off and running today. What a game for the Farmington, Utah native.
Yeah, his energy, he ran to the open spots, he relocated, he took advantage of short closeouts at times, and then when they just lost him, he made them pay. I thought his energy was terrific, and then his ability to shoot behind a ball screen. He has such great range, and it allows their whole spacing on the floor to be that much better. And well-deserved, 23 points. Yes, red hot from deep, but he did much more than just score the ball. I thought he brought the effort and energy on both sides of the floor.
Are you buying Hoppy as a nickname?
Yes, of course. Hoppy Chandler. I'm glad you're able to get that in.
He's got a big fan. And Rory Jane Lazaroff, who was just born February 22nd. Mom Brianna doing fantastic, and big Kentucky fans.
He just got himself open against the press in a very similar way that he did against Auburn. Kentucky fans are like, wait a minute.
That is not a laughing matter to this fan base or to the coach. Oweh for three. No good. Oh, congratulations to our buddy Nick Lazaroff at BBN tonight, welcoming his beautiful daughter. Under 2 to play. Tanner and Nickel in the same spot. Any concern for Vanderbilt after a 16-0 start and their struggles? We'll answer that in a second. Let's get to the studio. Quick check-in with Zubin.
Guys, just a quick programming note for those of you looking for Kansas and Arizona. We are underway. Jayhawks have connected from downtown for the first basket of the game. Darren Peterson in the lineup. It's round 2, this time from Tucson, right when you guys are finished.
Mike Zubin, thanks. Arizona can clinch a share of the Big 12 with the win today. It's a Kansas team which handed them their first loss back on February 9th. In and out for Tanner. How's your view of this Vanderbilt team changed this year over the last 13 games, including today?
For Vanderbilt, it doesn't really change. I think this was more about Kentucky and them showing the fight that you want in a rematch opportunity. You knew it was going to be personal on the home floor after Vanderbilt beat them by 25 in Nashville. This is a Commodore team that I still feel like has a Sweet 16 run in them.
Oweh draws the whistle. His 12, 20-point game in 16 conference games this season. And that is the 5th for McLaughlin. Oweh working on a 21-point game, going to the free throw line.
I think the biggest thing Coach Byington and his staff are going to say is, hey guys, look, we're off from 3, 7 of 27. But forget that. I mean, we gave up 60% from the field. And that's the controllables that they're going to look back on the film and say, we're not going to beat anybody on the rest of our schedule, and we'll be one and done in the tournament if we can't become a better defensive team than we've shown this afternoon.
So for Mark Byington's team at Ole Miss, a game that was originally scheduled to be at Memorial, but they had to flip due to the ice storms that shut down the entire Ole Miss campus. And they go on the road to Rocky Top a week from today. Washington point blank. He's had a big second half. 10 of his 16 have come since the break.
And that was their ram screen action. We asked Coach Byington about it. He goes, yeah, I originally got that from Anthony Grant when he was at VCU. That's why they call it ram.
It took him a second. He's like, where did I steal that from? Oh, yeah, Anthony Grant.
You screen, the guy coming to set the ball screen gives you space, and sometimes they do the Spain action where it's a back screen after that. So all the terminology. Emptying the bucket here late.
Shot clock buzzer beater off the rim. Washington the rebound. Kentucky came into today having lost 3 of 4. The Cats get a much needed home victory and go to 14-3 in this building. With still one more home game to come. That's next week against the reigning national champions. Cats put 91 on the board, 11 better than their season average, and all is well for a day in the Bluegrass as Mark Pope and the Cats going to win in their penultimate home game of the season. 91-77 is our final. Huge day of college hoops continues. Let's get you to Tucson, along with Mr. Big 12 Fran Fraschilla. Here's Boog Shambi to get you set for Kansas and Arizona.